Thank you, Courtney, for that introduction, for kicking things off, and thank you, everybody, for being with us today. It looks like we've got a critical mass, and so let's go ahead and get started. We've got a phenomenal program. We've got a lot of great partners who've helped us pull together this virtual trade mission with Canada. And very quickly, just at the top, I want to go ahead and make sure I recognize all of our partners on this event because it's critical to think about. One of the significant benefits of doing these virtual trade missions is the opportunity that we have here in Utah to make sure that we're aligned with other groups who are interested in this case, Canada, as well as to build partnerships with key players in the business and government communities in the countries where we're focused. And this virtual trade mission is no different. And so like Courtney mentioned, we're very grateful for the Canadian Consulate in Denver. They're very, very close partners. We worked very closely with them and David Smith in particular in building out the program that we're going to run through today. So thank you, David, to you and your team. We're also very grateful to Toronto Global, Vancouver Economic Commission, and Montreal International, phenomenal organizations in each of these key cities in the Canadian market who have helped shape the agenda, provided speakers, and are very much poised to help in the follow-up stage, which will be critical for all of our Utah companies that are participating. And of course, here in Utah, we're very grateful to the Governor's Office of Economic Development and the Salt Lake Chamber for their close partnership on not only the virtual trade mission in Canada, but everything that we're doing. You know, as I thought about how I could frame the conversations and discussions that we're going to be having throughout today, I thought a lot about during the 2014, 15, and 16, we heard a lot here in the United States about a pivot to Asia, about the need to focus on Asia. That was typically in reference to pivoting away from the Middle East, which is where I spent the bulk of my career working for the State Department, working overseas. And the idea was that Asia was a region of growth and an area where we needed to focus more on. I think what we've seen over the past couple of years, that a pivot to Asia, well, as important as Asia is, first and foremost, we need to make sure that we pivot here to North America, that we pivot, we focus in on our North American partnerships. That's what we've seen with USMCA, and we'll have some discussion on that here a little bit later. But what we are doing as a country and what we are doing here as a state is making sure that we are focused in our biggest, most important trade relationships. And that's a relationship with our neighbors to the north and to the south. And with Canada, we have such phenomenal partners in Denver, such strong opportunities when it comes to the economy, that it is critical that all of us really roll up our sleeves, dig in today, and make sure we take advantage of this opportunity that we have in front of us to hear from these key business leaders in Canada about the opportunities we have to grow and expand the trade and investment relationship with our neighbors to the north. I think it's telling that for as much as we talk about China here in the United States, and as much as we focus on China in terms of the trade and the economic relationship, here in the United States, we do 80% more trade with Canada and Mexico than we do with China. I think that's telling. It puts it in perspective a little bit, just how important it is that we build and we expand these relationships with our partners here in North America. And so we have a phenomenal program today with the market briefing, and then we'll go through the different industry breakout sessions throughout today. The one thing I will add before we move forward with the agenda is we judge our success as we pull these events together, not by the quality of the information that's shared, and I'm confident the quality of the information today will be very, very good. We judge our success by the positive action that takes place after the fact that wouldn't have happened without us all convening today. And so please, as you listen to our speakers today, think of ways that you and your organizations can engage. Courtney is doing a phenomenal job with these virtual trade missions. We've done several over the past few months, and she is very, very busy working one-on-one with companies to help them follow up with the other markets we've focused on. We've done virtual trade missions to the United Arab Emirates, Saudi Arabia, India, Israel. We're working on with Australia, and of course we're working on Canada today. And in each of those markets, she has opened doors and generated momentum for the Utah companies that were ready to jump in and engage after the fact. And so please jot down your notes, jot down your questions, participate in the Q&A sessions, and then make sure you send to Courtney an email, follow up, and let her know what your goals and objectives are in Canada, and she's poised to jump in and assist. So without further ado, I'd like to go ahead and welcome our first speaker. Ben Hart is a good friend of mine. He sits just down the hallway from me. He is the Deputy Director of the Governor's Office of Economic Development. He is leading out and shaping the way that the governor's office engages in the economy, and he provides great strategic leadership in that regard. So Ben, I'll go ahead and pass the baton over to you for your introductory remarks, at which point we'll jump into the program with our Canadian partners. So Ben, over to you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Miles. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. It is an honor to be with you this morning. I wish I was with you in person. I wish we were up in Canada and we were enjoying international trade. In fact, I joke with my family every Sunday I have to drive out to the airport with my kids just because I miss traveling so much. And at least seeing the new airport allows me to get a sense for what it's like to travel. But we did have plans to be up with Governor Herbert to Canada this year. That was our intent because it is for us one of our most important and key markets. And we really had wanted to get him there. This pandemic, unfortunately, probably will not allow that. But I know it's a key target for us nonetheless. And we hope to be up in Canada with you soon. I say that because we recognize how important that trading partnership is. But when it comes to business, just how important it is to connect our Utah businesses in with Canadian businesses. And it's such a natural trading partnership. And there's so much good and synergy that comes from our combined efforts with Canada and with the state of Utah. And so I salute those who've made this effort come together. Admittedly, it's not ideal to have to do things virtually, but it does allow for some efficiencies. And so we're able to have a good group of Utahns who are on the call, and obviously also with our Canadian partners as well. And so over the past couple of years, the governor has taken time when he's been at National Governors Association meetings and in other venues to meet with his Canadian counterparts, governors, and other leaders from Canada. And he values that partnership significantly. So, and I know I can speak for whoever the next governor of the state of Utah will be, that they also will continue this, because for us, we want to keep the energy and momentum going, and it's such a natural partnership. So we look forward to the good things that can happen even in these virtual settings. These virtual settings are one step closer to being back face-to-face, and that's what really matters, when we can create not only face-to-face meetings and partnerships, but then we create economic co-beneficial situations and partnerships. And so that's really what we're looking for, is how can we work together to mutually benefit our stakeholders and our citizens. And so we're grateful for that. We hope everyone takes every opportunity that this virtual trade mission will allow for, make the most of it. And I promise, as we learn to make things happen in virtual settings, it will make us that much more efficient when we're able to do business face-to-face again. So thank you to everyone for being on the line today. Look forward to being a part of the meetings that I can be as well. And we'll turn the time back over to Miles.
Great. Thank you, Ben, for that. I appreciate it. Next, we have the opportunity to hear some introductory remarks from Catherine Burkell, who is a senior trade commissioner at the Canadian Consulate in Denver. And again, it's a phenomenal partner there in Denver. We want to be such good partners here in Utah that they decided to move the consulate over here. So Catherine, you can start working on that. But in the meantime, I want you to go ahead and give us some introductory remarks from your side.
Great. Thank you very much, Miles and Ben and Courtney. Certainly, we enjoy our partnership with the World Trade Center and all our friends in Utah. And even though we don't have our Consulate General there, we do have a terrific representative in Paul Campbell, our honorary consul in Utah, who is on the line. I see him there this morning. So he is just a phenomenal resource for us and connection between Canada and Utah. So we're very pleased to be part of this trade mission. And as you know, Canada and the US have the largest two-way trading relationship in the world, and Canada and Utah have a very strong bilateral trade relationship already, almost $4 billion going both ways in terms of trade in goods and services every year. But we all think that there are opportunities for that to grow, certainly. And we're very excited to have our four of our good partners in Canada represented here today. We have Invest in Canada, Emily King is on the line, Toronto Global, Michael Koshkarian, Montreal International with Leah Berlinget and Mark McLean, and Peter Wright of the Vancouver Economic Commission. And these are very important partners for our Consulate General and in the work that we do to promote Canada as a trading partner and also as a place to do business and a place to expand business. So I will leave my remarks at that, but just very excited to be part of this, and also want to recognize David Smith, our trade commissioner, who has worked extremely diligently and hard to get this trade mission together with Courtney. And it's a new way of doing business, and I too wish we could be together, but it's exciting to see everyone on the screen in any event. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Catherine. We appreciate it. All right. Without further ado, let's jump into the substantive part of our program. First, we have the opportunity to hear from Emily King. Emily is a senior investor services advisor for the United States at Invest Canada. So Emily works with key investors to expand their businesses across Canada and works to facilitate more investment between the United States and Canada. So Emily, I'll go ahead and pass the baton over to you.
Thanks so much, Miles. Thanks, everybody. I'm really pleased to be with you here this morning. It's very exciting to be part of this first virtual trade mission that I've ever participated in. My background is actually also in, like Catherine and David, working in our consulates and embassies abroad. And I joined Invest in Canada just a couple of months ago. The interesting thing about Invest in Canada is it's actually a very, very small agency. So we're just a very small and mighty team of officers that work with investors from all around the world who want to expand their businesses in Canada. So I know a lot of people on the line today are going to be interested in trade in a couple of different ways. How you can sell more to the Canadian market, how you can do more business with Canadian partners. My focus is really on attracting investment into Canada. So that would be expanding business, your business in Canada. So, but we recognize that expansion has a lot of different aspects. A lot of US businesses end up expanding in Canada because they have a lot of customers in Canada, or they see that there are advantages to having offices both in the US and Canada to take advantage of free trade agreements, particular market access issues, talent. There are all kinds of reasons why US businesses look to expand in Canada. And I think one of the most important aspects of that is that our trading relationship is covered by what was known as NAFTA, now is known as USMCA or CUSMA, or there's lots of different names for it, but I'm going to refer to it as the new NAFTA. Everyone knows that name. And really, there's not so much to delve into, I think, in a forum like this. Like any free trade agreement, there are, hundreds of pages of legal documentation. But what the takeaway is, if you haven't done business in Canada before, is that the majority of goods and services that cross the border between Canada and the US every day are tariff and duty free under the NAFTA agreement. And the renegotiation of this agreement was really to update it, because it had been some decades since NAFTA was formed, and we needed to update the agreement to bring it into the 21st century. So we recognize that lots of goods and services have changed the way that trade has happened. But what you can take away is really that it's an agreement that fundamentally is based on exceptions rather than a big schedule of tariffs, and so you can assume that most goods and services are duty and tariff free between Canada and the US, unless they fall under one of the chapters for exceptions. And this is to protect different aspects of industry, both in Canada and the US, that are particular. So there's a chapter on agriculture, chapter on automotive, some national security measures that have changed over the time because of many changes that occurred after 9/11. There's a more modernized dispute settlement, and there's a modernized chapter on labor. But there's some really incredible facilities inside NAFTA to allow for free movement of goods and a pretty free movement of people as well. That's one of the things for us in Invest in Canada that we're so interested in talking about is when, for example, a US company wants to open a branch plant or a new facility in Canada. There are a lot of really amazing provisions to allow for the movement of people between your business entities across the border without too much difficulty. So I'm going to share my screen now. I just have a really brief presentation, and I'm not going to go through it in a lot of detail because you will have access to it if you are interested, and you will be able to, just one moment, you'll be able to have a look at it just as soon as I think Courtney is going to bring forward the package from this day. So if I can just get a thumbs up if people can see my screen. Yes, thank you very much. All right, so why Canada? This is my, I'm the evangelist. So in a very Canadian way right now, I'm going to apologize for how rah Canada this presentation is, but it's really what I'm here to talk about is why Canada is an interesting destination for you to do business in and for you to consider for further investment. This is kind of the slide in the nutshell that talks about what Canada has to offer. So it gives you the map, which gives you a sense of how the Canadian population is distributed. You can see that most of Canadian population is actually very, very close to the US border, which highlights how important it is that we have a robust trading relationship with the United States. The majority of our population is very, very close to the US border and relies on that trade, both imports and exports, for a robust economy. Nevertheless, though, if you think about how Canada is situated geographically in the world, it's a place that, next door to one of the most important economies and one of the most important countries in the world, but geographically isolated from Europe and Asia. So we have also a lot of links between both over the Pacific and the Atlantic. Further in Western Canada, those links are very, very strong with Asia, and in the East, very, very strong with Europe. And to cover those important links, we do have a very, very robust network of other trade agreements beyond NAFTA, which cover 51 countries and 1.5 billion consumers. So companies that expand in Canada have access to those preferential agreements to get market access all around the world. But returning to the US, 117 border crossings to the US. There's just, as Catherine pointed out, just an incredible amount of trade every day, as well as 23 international airports. And I'm going to speak also to some of the clusters and some of the sort of centers of excellence that you will experience in Canada. I don't want to steal the thunder from my colleagues who are going to be talking specifically about Toronto, Montreal, and Vancouver. I'm just going to jump to one quick slide about Canadian talent. So when we're talking about kind of clusters and centers of excellence for when you're learning about Canada, one takeaway I'd love you to take from this presentation is that Canada has a very, very skilled and highly diversified workforce. So we have a fairly low cost of tuition in Canada, which means that higher education attainment is high. You may know Canada as an economy that has a basis in natural resources and agri-food, agribusiness, but increasingly the ICT sector and service sector is the driver of the Canadian economy. And we have a very, very large number of top-rated universities. So for companies that have a high component of research and development, Canada is a place where often companies look to expand on their R&D capacity. There is a relatively new initiative to group some of the most innovative Canadian clusters into this thing called the supercluster, the Innovation Ecosystem Supercluster. We have 5 of them in Canada. They're spread across the country, and they actually, it's an attempt by the government to help pull together both the private and public sector to work on some of the most important emerging industries in Canada. So we have the Advanced Manufacturing Supercluster, which is focused in Southern Ontario, where there is an existing very important cluster of manufacturing facilities, including Canada's auto industry. There's the Digital Technology Supercluster that is focused in BC, that focuses on various kinds of digital technologies such as gaming, artificial intelligence, and fintech. There's a number of really interesting initiatives out of that supercluster. And then you've probably heard that Canada is one of the leaders internationally of AI. So we actually have a specific supercluster focused on AI, which is based around Montreal. That Scale AI supercluster recognizes the expertise that is focused in that region. And then there are 2 other really interesting superclusters, one being Protein Industry Supercluster based in the Prairie Provinces. This is to focus on the future of farming as well as new proteins, non-meat proteins, which hopefully will help solve some of the most intractable problems facing humanity in terms of feeding ourselves into the next century. And then in the eastern part of Canada, in Atlantic Canada, where I'm actually based, we have the Ocean Technology Supercluster, and that is everything to do with the oceans, whether it be sensors, ocean farming, oil and gas, offshore extraction. There's so many interesting technologies coming out of that supercluster. So that's a fairly new initiative. I wanted to raise it today because it's something that I don't think people are very, very familiar with. Last couple of slides, I just wanted to also share some high-level comments about the Canadian economy. I think one of the things that we always point to is both the stability and diversity. So after the 2008 financial crisis, Canada's banking system came through with flying colors, and it's a fairly well-regulated economy, which allows for a lot of business certainty. So if you're making an investment in Canada, if you're doing business in Canada, you can count on a sound banking system, low corruption, political stability. These are all things that give businesses assurance that you're not moving into a very risky market. In addition to that, one of the facts that I'd like to share is that the marginal effective tax rate in Canada is also the lowest in the G7. This is something that the Canadian government has been working on over the course of the last 20 years, bringing our marginal tax rate down to the point that investors feel very confident in being able to reinvest in their businesses and to, take advantage of this relatively low tax environment to really make those investments that will help grow your business and contribute to the Canadian economy. Finally, one of my favorite slides is just about quality of life. I think Canadians enjoy an enormously high quality of life. When you do business in Canada, you can also enjoy that quality of life, that sense of, just high quality of day-to-day life in bigger cities. So bigger cities like Vancouver, Toronto, Ottawa, Montreal, and Calgary are all rated in the top 50 cities in the world for quality of living. And it's something that Canadians really value, to preserve nature, preserve the kind of positive social interactions that make life in Canada worth living, make us brave the long winters, and continue to focus on growing this great country through immigration. I'm going to just put up a quick slide with my contact details. You can see them here, but as I say, Courtney and Hannah are going to share all of these slides. So if you don't have a chance to jot those down, you can have a look at the presentation. And I'll just come back momentarily to say thank you for your attention. It's not easy when we can't sit in a room all together and exchange ideas, but I'm certainly excited to answer any questions that you have later on when we're in the Q&A session. Thanks so much.
Great. Thank you, Emily, for that overview. And again, everybody, we'll hold on questions for Emily until the end. We want to get to our other speakers, but please feel free to put them into the chat, send them to Courtney through the Q&A section or tool, and then she'll run through those in the Q&A session. So let's go ahead and jump into our city speakers. So of course, as you can see from Emily's slides, 3 top cities in Canada, very, very important for Utah companies to have a deeper understanding of these cities, Toronto, Montreal, and Vancouver. First, we'll hear from Toronto. Michael Kioshkarian is a senior advisor with Toronto Global. Michael's mission is to support Utah-based companies that are looking to expand their businesses in the Toronto region. So Michael, I'll go ahead and turn it over to you.
All right, thank you very much. Hi, everybody. Great to be here attending my first virtual trade mission. So I'm just going to jump right in and share my screen. There we go. Does everybody see that? Yes, excellent. Okay. I'm also going to stop my video as well, just to help with the internet connectivity there. So yes, again, I'm very excited for this. I was actually, so pre-pandemic, my last trip, business trip to the United States was actually to Salt Lake City. I was there at the end of January meeting with companies and attending the Silicon Slopes conference. So I'm happy to continue supporting connections between Canada and Utah. So I'm aiming to be concise and broad with this presentation, but of course can connect with anyone afterwards to dive deeper. First, about myself and Toronto Global. Toronto Global is a nonprofit agency funded by the Canadian government, the government of the province of Ontario, and the municipalities that we represent. Our main mission is to support international investment and job creation into the Toronto region. I myself support companies in the Western United States. So putting Toronto into context, we are in the, let me see, there you go. We are in the Eastern time zone and we are in the province of Ontario and within a greater region of tens of millions, tightly integrated into industries and economies across North America. The Toronto region is big. As a metro region, we're almost 7 million people, and the city of Toronto itself is the 4th largest city in North America after Mexico City, New York, and Los Angeles. And Toronto is also the fastest growing city and metropolitan region in the United States and Canada. This is driven by both local growth and immigration. I'm not sure how many of you have visited Toronto, and if you have, how recently, but in the last 20 years, our skyline has been transformed by all the new office and residential developments, in addition to having some of the largest ongoing and upcoming public transit projects as well. Toronto contributes significantly to Canada's economy, contributing almost 20% of Canada's GDP. We're home to the majority of head offices in Canada, and we also offer one of the largest consumer markets. We have 2 international airports, with Pearson International being the busiest in Canada, serving almost 50 million passengers a year, and also serving almost 50% of Canada's air cargo. An interesting fact is Pearson Airport served more passengers who flew to destinations outside of North America than to within Canada, reflecting our international connectivity. And this internationality of Toronto is something that I'm going to be touching on throughout my presentation, beginning with Toronto's ability to attract the world's top talent. So recently, Toronto has been welcoming more than 100,000 new immigrants every year. We have one of the largest populations of international students, and the Toronto region itself is approximately 50% foreign-born. We develop talent through our 18 colleges and universities in the Toronto region, with schools like the University of Toronto, one of Canada's top-ranked and largest schools at 90,000 students and amongst the top worldwide. And we retain talent by making one of the most livable, safe, and diverse cities in North America. And in being the economic engine of Canada, Toronto is virtually every industry present, but I'm going to be focusing on our top 4 here briefly: financial services, technology, life sciences, and manufacturing. So traditionally, Toronto has been an epicenter of finance in North America, second only to New York City in this industry. Canada's 5 largest banks are headquartered here, along with most major institutional investment and insurance firms. We're also home to the Toronto Stock Exchange, one of the largest stock exchanges in the world. And as an interesting fact, the TSX actually has more mining and oil and gas companies listed than any other stock exchange. And with almost 300,000 skilled workers employed in the financial services industry, we attract more than half of all foreign capital investment in financial services in Canada. Moving to Toronto's tech sector, the main themes of our strength here is high quality via our homegrown talent, access to global top talent via our open immigration programs, and our lower cost of business, namely driven by the Canadian dollar and just lower costs such as our healthcare costs as well. Our size, again, plays a part in attracting companies looking for top talent. We're one of the largest tech hubs in North America. We have almost 300,000 tech workers, more than 24,000 companies. Again, I want to be brief with this presentation, but I do want to highlight a few assets, such as the Mars Discovery District. This is one of the largest urban innovation hubs in North America, with 1.5 million square feet in downtown Toronto. Has a diverse community of over 120 global tech companies, startups, research labs, doing research in AI, life sciences, genomics, clean tech, and more. Toronto's venture capital scene is also growing, supported by our history as a financial hub, with major institutional pension firms that have VC arms headquartered in Toronto, like Canada Pension Plan and OMERS, as well as Canada's largest private VCs. Some of them are based in Toronto. Another highlight is Toronto's strength in artificial intelligence, a notable center being the Vector Institute, with more than 120 million in funding, public and private funding. It has industry and academic support to tackle industry challenges in this area, as well as support the training of highly qualified people in this field. And finally, with all these strengths, we're seeing continuing international investment into Toronto, with companies seeking locations with top talent and a high quality of life. And here I just wanted to briefly reflect on again, the 18 colleges and universities in the Toronto region. So moving to life sciences, again, we're one of the largest in North America. We rival traditional hubs like Boston and San Francisco. Downtown Toronto's Discovery District has 9 research hospitals, 10 community hospitals, 3 universities, and over 100 biotech and medical device companies. Toronto General Hospital is ranked one of the top 10 in the world, and it's known for its innovations in transplants and cardiovascular medicine. It's also, Discovery District is an area well suited to hosting biotech and health tech and AI-related startups. Looking to the broader Toronto region, we have the life sciences industry spread throughout, such as many pharmaceutical companies in the west of Toronto, where they place their headquarters and R&D operations, making for the area informally known as Pale Hill. And here's just a brief timeline of some notable discoveries in Toronto, spanning from the discovery of insulin to research into stem cells. And moving to the last sector of focus, manufacturing. So being Canada's largest city and in such close proximity to the US industrial Northeast, the Toronto region has long been host to traditional manufacturing and been part of the supply chain for many industries. And leveraging our diversity, our growth, and our highly skilled workers, we recognize that there's a transition in the sector occurring, from traditional manufacturing to advanced manufacturing in areas like robotics and electrification. As Emily briefly mentioned, the province of Ontario has long been an automotive manufacturing powerhouse. We're often neck and neck with the state of Michigan in terms of top number of vehicles produced in North America. And I did a bit of research as well, and in the trade between Utah and the province of Ontario, one of the highest trade categories is in automotive and automotive parts. So this history of manufacturing means that Ontario and Toronto have companies like Magna and Linamar headquartered here, as well as Ontario being the only state or province with 5 automotive OEMs. Again, and just reflecting, our talent in academic institutions, we recognize that traditional manufacturing is changing. So supporting, local and international investment into battery and energy storage technology, we're encouraging the transition of this sector from traditional to advanced. And, Toronto region's size and importance in many industries' supply chains means we also have strengths in aerospace and are supporting some similar innovations here. Finally, as mentioned, the Toronto region is home to one of Canada's 5 superclusters, the Next Generation Manufacturing Cluster. It has government funding to match industry funding to support this sector. I can dive deeper into it briefly or afterwards with anyone, but I've worked with companies to bring them to Toronto as well as to tap into this program and enter into a consortium with large local players. So moving towards the end of my presentation here, I want to focus on Toronto's diversity. We are one of, if not the most multicultural region in the world. I mentioned, we welcome more than 100,000 immigrants each year, and Canada, to put that into context, Canada welcomes more than 300,000 immigrants a year. And, we're often a place where newcomers can find both familiarity and acceptance into new communities. And the impact of this on the city of Toronto means that, again, we have more residents born outside of Canada than within it. And from an investment perspective, companies that are seeking diversity in tech or finance or professional services, they know they can find such a diverse talent base in Toronto. And it also means we have an incredible food scene. So we like to say that no matter where you come from, Toronto will quickly feel like home. And that concludes my presentation here, but I do like to leave with one last point, and that we're also a sports city. And while we didn't make it this year, we were the NBA champs last year for anybody who's following the NBA bubble. All right, thank you very much. I'll stop there.
Great, thank you, Michael, for that presentation. Let's turn now to Montreal. We got Mark McLean, who's the Senior Director of Business Development for the Americas, Asia, and Entrepreneurship at Montreal International. Mark has worked closely on multiple international expansions, including Microsoft, Google, and Facebook AI research. Mark, I'll go ahead and pass it over to you.
Thank you very much, Miles. Michael, great presentation. I joke, but there's very few things that Toronto and Montreal agree on, but I am a Raptors fan. For anybody who is a sports fan, you had the streets of Montreal full of fans last year during the run. So yeah, I'm a big Raptors fan, and too bad they didn't make it this year. It was exciting. And similar to Michael, I was in Salt Lake City last year. I miss traveling. I think it's probably a common refrain on this call that everyone misses traveling. I had a great time out there. Hopefully we get back to it soon. So let me share my screen. Give me 1 second and get things started. And again, I'll try and make this a little bit, get through this quick. I know we want to do a question and answer period. So I just want to kind of give an overview here. If you have any questions at all, post them in the chat. If there's anything you want to learn more about, yeah, I think it's pretty easy to track down our details from the team organizing. This is just an overview. It's hard to give too much insight on too many sectors in 10 minutes, but let's get to it. So just quickly, Montreal, if you're not familiar with Montreal, and I'm sure a lot of you are, we're one of the major cities in Canada for almost 4.5 million now for Greater Montreal, about half of that on the island. We've had significant economic growth over the past couple of years, and then Montreal International, we represent, there's 82 municipalities in Greater Montreal that we cover. And it's close. Sometimes it's funny how close people don't realize how close Montreal is. We're only about an hour flight from Boston or New York. Really, it's just across the border. Just minimize this so you can make sure everyone can see. So here are some of the key facts about Montreal, about what's how the city's been doing, some of the stuff that's going on that's interesting. The one thing that I find really interesting, the one thing that I always touch upon when talking to people, is our hydroelectricity. Right, it makes it a really clean city. It's a lot of renewable energy in Montreal. which gives us a big advantage, especially going forward. I think it's really important going forward on how important our clean energy ecosystem will be. Beyond that, this is, I think, what is the most interesting and why I think a lot of us are here, right? The industries that Montreal is doing well in, where Montreal does actually shine, right? And similar to Toronto, we don't, I think we can't say we're the best at everything, but there's some industries that we are very, very good in. One industry that I speak to a lot is the AI industry. I'll talk about that a little bit more on the next slide, because I think that's one of the most exciting things happening in Canada and worldwide. Video games. Montreal is a world leader in video games. We have some of the best video game developers in the world in our city. We were extremely fortunate that Google decided to set up their first studio for video games in Montreal just at the end of last year. Ubisoft has their headquarters here. Depending how you qualify it, we are top 5 in the world for video game development. And there is so much going on in the video game ecosystem, and a lot of the top games that if you played or your children play, it's funny how many of them are developed in Montreal. Life sciences, one of my friends, Shane Russell, will be leading the life sciences discussion a little bit later on today. We're top 6 in the world for life sciences. We are Canada's the 8th biggest market in the world for medtech devices and life sciences. We have a major hub around Montreal for pharma and medtech. There's a lot going on there also. It's one of the sectors that Montreal was built on. One of the funnest sectors, I'll say, to work in is the VFX industry. Because of the crossover in video games, in the creative talent in Montreal, we are one of the hubs in the world and in Canada for visual effects. A lot of the movies that you've seen either get worked on or developed here. I just watched a trailer last night for Denis Villeneuve. He's one of the big directors in the world right now. Dune was that is coming out soon. A lot of the special effects was done in Montreal by the team here at Double Negative. So it's really interesting when you get to see the behind the curtain a little bit what they do there. And then aerospace, and I joke a bit, but it's in one of the industries that are in a little bit tougher times these days. But Montreal, because of Bombardier, because of everything that goes on, we are the 2nd biggest aerospace hub in North America. There is a major aerospace hub and talent pool here in the city. AI, so I just want to touch on AI quickly again, because it's kind of a little bit the catch-all word, a little bit the buzzword on everyone's lips these days. Everyone talks about it. But we really feel in Montreal there's a reason we talk about it, and in Canada in general, right? There's the Pan-Canadian AI strategy, which involves Montreal, Toronto, and Edmonton. And then in Montreal itself, we have a ton of stuff going on. Again, we've been extremely fortunate in Montreal to be able to work on some of the biggest AI initiatives in North America and in the world. And the reason we feel that is because of the research pool of Montreal. Montreal has a really deep research culture in Montreal because of specifically one professor, Yoshua Bengio. If you look him up, he is one of the leading forefathers of artificial intelligence, along with Jeffrey Hinton, who's based in Toronto. Yoshua Bengio is the most cited computer scientist in the world, or at least he was in 2019. I haven't updated my facts recently. But because of the Research Institute, we have a ton of talent. We see a lot of companies coming to Montreal to do fundamental research. You see some names of small companies at the bottom of the slide here. Google, Facebook, Samsung, DeepMind, Microsoft. As a small town Quebecer, a Montreal guy, to work with these companies setting up labs in Montreal, it's been really fun. And we don't see it stopping. We see the influx of researchers coming to Montreal and the talent nonstop. Beyond that, we have a really strong startup ecosystem, something very near and dear to my heart. You can read some of the slides here, but we have a separate mandate to attract startups. So if you are a startup or an entrepreneur, a little bit different than what our traditional mandate is, and I think across the board for Montreal, Toronto, Vancouver, is to attract the big companies set up here. But if you are a startup, we have a separate mandate to help startups actually get set up and get integrated into the city. You can find incubators, accelerators for almost anything you're looking at, either be it deep tech, life sciences, video games, artificial intelligence, business. We have an ecosystem that can support your startup. So what does all this do? Where does this lead to? It's what we've done over the past couple of years, right? You can see our numbers for investment in Montreal over the past couple of years. It's been going extremely well. I won't get into the details, but we're over $2.5 billion in investment invested into the city last year alone. Some of the sectors that do get investment in them, and they're, again, a lot of the sectors I spoke to already, VFX, aerospace, video games, artificial intelligence. Data centers is actually really strong because of our hydroelectricity, because of our clean electricity. And then where these investments come from? They're coming from, and I joke, but you guys on the phone, right? It's mostly coming from the United States these days. You guys are one of our biggest partners. I miss so much going to the United States and traveling and meeting with people and selling Montreal. And these are examples of some of the projects that we helped in 2019. Some names, most of these names I think are either well-known or very, just will be well-known very closely. And some names, you know, Amazon, Denso, 2K Sports if you're in video games, some VFX and digital domain, some AI and Samasource, a little bit all over the map with these projects that's set up in the city. And then in our entrepreneurship mandate, right, we've helped 11 startups move their headquarters to Montreal. We helped them by getting them integrated in the ecosystem and finding funding primarily. And a little bit more about Montreal. Why are these companies coming to Montreal? Why are people setting up in this city? It's because of the talent, right? And I think it's the same thing across Canada, right? We have a deep, deep talent pool in the city. We have one of the best up-and-coming talent pools in the city too, right? We have a very, very strong student population. You can see our numbers here, 320,000 post-secondary students. We were voted the best student city in the Americas. So it makes a big, big difference when you're able to attract students to your city. It's that next wave of talent coming up that could support any growth of any company in the city. And then the quality of life, right? We have the most bilingual and the most trilingual population in Canada. Bilingual, if most of you aren't aware, and I've been told I have an accent. We are a French and English province and city. And then beyond that, we have a lot of the population that speaks 3 languages. Our operating costs, and again, you can see it here, but this is similar across Canada. The operating costs for running a team in Montreal is very advantageous. We could get into the tax credits if you're ever interested in speaking about them. I used to work at Ernst & Young, so I have a lot of background in tax credits. We could probably spend the next 8 hours going through the tax credits, but I'll just let you know there's a lot depending what your industry in, especially in the software and tech industry. You can see the wages here. Because of our cost of living is affordable, our wages are be able to be kept reasonable for talent in the city. Here is a snapshot of some of the tax credits that you're able to take advantage of in the city of Montreal. Again, any more specific questions, you can reach out to me. But generally, and this is similar across Canada, you could get about 25 to 50% of your salaries for your work done in the city can be a benefit from the government. A lot of that would be refundable. Cost of living, your talent will be happy here. It doesn't cost a lot to live here. And when you do set up here, it's a great city to live in. And you guys are familiar with winters. We have a little bit of winter, but it's not so bad. We are one of the best cities, again, for quality of life, low homicide rate, universal health care, low education fees. It is, I've lived here my whole life and I don't ever plan on moving. We're globally recognized for what we do. And some just testimonials from the companies we work with. So that's just a very quick little slideshow of what we can help with. If you have any questions, I think we're going to answer them after this with a little bit of more of a deep dive. But that is a very, very high overview of what we can do, where we can help. Back to you, Miles.
Great. Thank you for that, Mark. Let's go ahead and head west to Vancouver. Peter Wright, the Business Development Officer for the Vancouver Economic Commission. Peter provides ongoing direction and support to U.S. companies that are looking to invest in Canada, and it can also help with the U.S. companies who are looking to grow and expand what they're doing in Canada as well. So Peter, we'll go ahead and send it over to you.
Good morning. I also have a minor pet peeve with going last because I think Toronto, Montreal, and Vancouver all talk about 70% of the same stuff about how great we are and all that kind of stuff, but it really just speaks to how we all sort of have a collaborative atmosphere and sort of work together on a lot of things. So I'm going to turn off my video, and hopefully that's going to help with the presentation here, just because my computer likes to time out every once in a while. And again, thumbs up if you can see the screen. Showing something. Oh, good. Okay, perfect. Last time I did this, it didn't work. So welcome to Vancouver. Beautiful place to live, beautiful place to work. Not any of the sort of the history that Montreal or Toronto have, really, unfortunately. Sorry, I can't. There we go. We're only about 130 years old. We actually started off, and that's what it looked like. We were a natural resources town, a lot of logging. To be honest, we have a lot of smoke up here from the fires in the Washington, Oregon right now, so it kind of looks like that, but that is extremely unusual. This is usually what it looks like. Natural resources are still probably our biggest employer in the city, but it's gone from about 90% of people down to roughly 55 or so, because we've had tremendous growth in other sectors, technology, life sciences, clean tech, supply chain logistics, advanced manufacturing. And then we've still had a significant amount on natural resources recently, but this sort of companies coming in to sort of work with natural resources companies, see how they can sort of clean up those processes and go from there. And apparently you still can't see the presentation. Okay, so let me try this again. If it doesn't work this time, Hannah, I believe I've sent it to you. If you're able to pull it up, if it doesn't work this time, we can go from there. But I did get some thumbs up last time, so that was sort of what puzzled me. Is anyone able to see it? No. Okay. Hannah, are you able to pull it up and we can just sort of go the old-fashioned way and I can just go?
Yeah, I'll pull it up right now.
Thank you. Perfect. All right. So let's go to that slide number 4, please. Thank you. Yeah. Perfect. All right. So one of the reasons we've grown as much as we have is just because we're very much a global gateway. Being in the Pacific time zone, we're able to do business with Europe and Asia in the same day, which presents a lot of advantages. Part of many free trade agreements. This goes for most of Canada, granted, but CETA, so that's access to 500 million people in Europe. Korean free trade agreement brings a lot of technology sharing with AI companies and specifically with advanced manufacturing as well. We have a Trans-Pacific Partnership. Japan, Vietnam, and Singapore are probably some of the bigger signatories on that, but it gives us access to significant markets there. And as we touched on before, new NAFTA, still an agreement no matter where you are in Canada. Now, Vancouver gives you access to a pretty significant market locally. We don't have the population centers of Toronto and Montreal, so we can't really claim that. But at the same time, you've got approximately 5 million people in BC. Tag on Seattle and Oregon, you have 11.5 and 2.5-hour flight away, you've got California. So that's access to 40 million people right there. Next slide, please. So just sticking with the West Coast theme, we're very much part of the tech time zone. So from Vancouver all the way to San Diego, tech is coming to the forefront and has for the past 20 or 30 years, particularly in Vancouver. It's growing significantly. Some of those companies at the bottom, Boeing, Salesforce, Tableau, Samsung, all have large operations here. Amazon's going to be about 6,000 people by 2025. Microsoft has been here since before it was born, to be absolutely honest. So they've been around for a while. And both Hootsuite and Slack, large tech unicorn startups, were actually founded in Vancouver and have grown significantly internationally. So not only do a lot of companies choose Vancouver to operate in, a lot of them set up here and grow from here as well. And Vancouver to San Diego, that's only a 3-hour flight. So it may seem like a long way, but it's quite close to get to a lot of those cities. Next slide, please. Some of the advantages in Vancouver play by a different set of rules. I mentioned the free trade agreements. Our immigration policy, much like the rest of Canada, we have a variety of programs that can help people get in with ease. We also have something called the Provincial Nominee Program, which is through the BC government. And roughly 80% of the people who apply for that program get in within 2 weeks. Can't say that out to every single person, but it's a quick way of getting into the province and a quick way of getting work done, getting workers up here. This leads to a pretty significant diverse labor force. We have a large immigrant population, much like Toronto and Montreal do. But this leads to a diverse labor force with new ideas and new ways of doing things. A lot of them are drawn here, not just by jobs, but for education. We have 25 post-secondary institutions in the province, including some global leaders in Vancouver itself. We also have excellent healthcare system, as much the rest of Canada does. And we've invested a lot in it during the COVID crisis. We had our highest totals, I think, of COVID in one day. It was about 130, which is some of the lower ones in North America, to be absolutely honest. So we're doing quite well on that. I don't entirely know how this is going to play out with COVID, just with the commercial lease rates, but they are some of the lowest for a large city in the West Coast of North America. They're about 60% of the cost of San Francisco and 75% of the cost of Seattle. So if you're looking to move to the West Coast or open up an operation there, it is less expensive than the other cities to the south. Quality of talent here is pretty significant. 20 years ago, a lot of talent would have to leave here and go to other cities in order to sort of get a good job and be successful. And that has changed significantly over the past few years. A lot of talent just sort of staying here. There are a lot of good companies here, a lot of good jobs. The salaries have gone up, but still not to the rate they have in other cities. For example, starting software engineer in San Francisco will make roughly 130. Seattle about 110, and Vancouver, that same amount's probably about 70 for the same role. So as far as the cost of salaries go, it's a lot more affordable to pay people here, and you still have the excellent talent. My two compatriots talked briefly about the shred tax credits, but that's a way of getting a lot of the tax credits back for doing R&D in Canada. And our corporate tax rates themselves are some of the lowest in North America, so a lot of the hard-earned money you earn stays in your pocket, and that's beneficial for everyone. Next slide, please, Hannah. One thing we're really advancing in particular is the greenest city. We're becoming world-renowned for green thinking and green living. We're leading climate change. We're involved in a lot of different organizations that we've committed to, such as Zero Waste and Renewable Energy. Our sector is growing by 6% every year, including some non-traditional sectors such as construction and film. Our film sector in particular is the third largest in North America after New York and LA. And our VFX cluster is the largest in the world. So we can't claim that we were involved in Dune, but we have won several Oscars for our work in the city, which is quite good. Our greenhouse gases are dropping despite the fact that our economy is growing. Our provincial economy grew by almost 4% last year. And we're a top 10 global clean tech cluster for a city of almost 3 million people. That's a pretty significant place to be. So that's a significant sector going forward. Next slide, please, Hannah. We're a very innovative city as well. Just want to touch on some of the companies. I already brought up Slack. Carbon Engineering is focusing on carbon capture and storage, and that was a startup that has won several awards recently and actually been profiled in Economist as one of the companies to watch. D-Wave is working on quantum computing, which is fantastic speeds that they're working on. Aspect is bioprinting various heart valves in particular, focusing on surgery. And then Broadband TV is actually one of the global players on YouTube that helps a lot of people setting up their videos and their streams. And that started about 3 blocks from my office. So next one, please. We're a large investment city as well. This has been growing over the past several years. We have a lot of investment from various firms that you can see in there, such as Cork and Chrysalis. Now, these are some numbers that are just sort of located in firms, and they work a lot with SMEs in order to be able to help them invest in those firms and help them grow in Vancouver. And sometimes it's private, but then you see our provincial government has created a tech fund for about $100 million of investment. And then even private sector companies like Hootsuite have their own venture arms, and that's becoming an increasing thing as well. So you see a lot more partnerships between startups and larger organizations here as well, which only helps to grow the ecosystem and help out entrepreneurs and help them stay in Vancouver. Next, please. We also pitched lifestyle quite a bit here. Talked about winter previously. We do winter, but the snow stays on our mountains. I think we have a total of an inch of snow on the ground over an entire winter last year. That photo is from Whistler. I know Utah is Park City, and it is an absolutely great place to ski, but Whistler's bigger, about 2,000 acres larger. So it gives you a tremendous opportunity to actually sort of get out and do the winter. And if the winter's not your thing, next slide, please. We also do summer quite nicely. We have about 20 miles of beaches in and around Vancouver. The water is warm enough to go swimming in. It's not tropical, but it is definitely warm enough to do swimming in regularly. And so you get a lot of people who are drawn by a good place to live and a good place to work, plenty of job opportunities and plenty of extracurricular activities as well. Next slide, please. And this is the important thing. So for the last year or so, every single company that's talked to me about Vancouver, what are the benefits of Vancouver, what it's like there, the number one question they ask me is, what's the talent like? And I think that really goes to show that that's what people are concerned about more. That's what all organizations are really looking for. A lot of talent comes to Vancouver, a lot of talent stays in Vancouver, and they choose it for a variety of different reasons. It's a very walkable and bikeable city. Our transit's fantastic. It's very livable, usually in top 10 on almost every single global list. The airport, we have more flights to Asia than the majority of other cities in North America, even on the West Coast, which is quite significant. We have a lot of tech meetups, not happening so much due to COVID right now, but most of them have gone virtually. And this allows a lot of entrepreneurs and people in the tech industry to meet. So we run approximately 20 of those a week throughout the city. My personal favorite is the craft brewery scene. Montreal can attest to this as well. It's growing significantly. And that just shows that sort of a lot of entrepreneurs are alive and well, because we also have one of the largest macro brewing scenes in Vancouver, or it's in a suburb of Vancouver for Molson Coors. But despite having a massive player here, you're still able to have a lot of entrepreneurs growing and developing their own products. So next, please. So some of the ways Vancouver Economic Commission helps, we do a lot of research and put out a lot of information sort of talking about the green city or industrial lands and advancements in different sectors, and that we can sort of help a lot of companies grow through that. We also put together programs to sort of help companies develop, companies grow in Vancouver. We do one where we actually help SMEs learn how to pitch and get better at that. And then we ran that in December with 25 different investors in the room, and seven different organizations were able to pitch for them. So that's a significant example. And then we work with a lot of our federal partners, obviously Invest Canada, as Emily was mentioning earlier, the Trade Commissioner's Service, David, as well as the provincial authorities. I actually do work with Toronto Global and Montreal International a lot, sharing companies back and forth, sharing insights, and that has been significantly beneficial as well. We all play nice in the sandbox up here, which is great fun. Next slide, please. And I know we're running out of time, so I'll wrap up very quickly. One of our cool programs we're doing right now is the Tech Deployment Network. So this is where we work with a lot of startups, partnering them with larger organizations such as the Port of Vancouver, which is the third largest port in North America, based on a variety of different metrics, TransLink, which is transportation, and TELUS, which is the largest telecommunications company. So we'll partner a smaller firm with them in order to sort of showcase a certain technology that company is working on. And that gives that company an opportunity to work with a large organization, get their information out there, and then sort of grow and sort of demonstrate how their technology is significant and how it can help them grow. And that leads to tremendous opportunities for a lot of smaller firms. Next, please. And this is just something that's come up recently. We're doing a lot of work on green buildings right now, and there's about a $3.3 billion opportunity over the next decade, because this is a sector that Vancouver is changing our building codes on and changing our construction requirements, but we do not have the technology or the companies to be able to do it. So I know green buildings isn't necessarily an area of focus here, but it's a tremendous opportunity in Vancouver, and it's something that I think people should consider, or if there's any organizations that are on this, I'm more than happy to talk about this further. So next slide, please. That's it. Thank you very much for listening. Much appreciated.
Great. Thank you so much, Peter. So I know we're a little bit over, but I'm just going to ask two quick questions that don't sort of fit into the other breakout sessions that we're having. And we're so grateful for all the speakers and your time. Quick question for you, Emily, about agriculture, since we have some on the phone as well. One of the things that's come up from the USMCA that US farmers get more access to the Canadian dairy market. In looking at possible trade opportunities, Utah sells lots of alfalfa, but there are a couple of companies that are also starting to work with hybrid grass. So it's a pearl, millet, and sorghum Sudan blend that grows up to 25 feet tall, and the protein content is better than alfalfa and triple the production. It was developed at Texas A&M. Is that something that Canada would be interested in speaking with our Utah companies about? And if so, where would we follow up with that?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question. I would think that folks in the protein supercluster would be interested in this product, especially and may already be following its development. It's an organization that is, I mean, I should sort of clarify, the supercluster isn't one organization. It's a consortium of both public and private entities working together on particular technology or challenges. So protein supercluster would include traditional growers, scientists, R&D facilities, as well as, investors in this space. So I would say that, probably the quickest way to find out whether there's interest in the protein supercluster is for me to connect you, or for David to connect you to one of our offices that's based nearby the protein supercluster, for them to make some introductions. And yeah, it's pretty straightforward.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And I'll do one more question so everyone can hop off. The other thing is Canada's moving to fuel for automobiles that is natural gas or hydrogen, and they need the right tanks that hold that. We have, for example, a Utah company called Hypercamp that does exactly that, and a few others as well. Is there a need for these tanks currently? And if so, how do these companies go about the process of exporting their product to Canada? Anyone know about that? I'm thinking about maybe, I don't know, manufacturer, anyone who deals with more of the auto industry there?
Yep.
Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, sorry. So the question was the export of this this tank to Canada.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, we can definitely look more into that. I would say connect me with that person, and we can have a conversation about kind of the supply chain and how we can best kind of see what the angle would be. I mean, I think that there might be a need to look into USMCA and ensure that everything is square there. But we certainly had the conversation about the existing supply chain in Ontario, and for companies that are looking for this solution, and just facilitating that conversation.
Great. Thank you all so much. I'll turn it over to Miles in the interest of time. We really appreciate everything you've all done. Thank you. Go ahead, Miles.
Great. Thank you, everybody, for your presentations, and Courtney for those questions. Everybody else, I know that we've received many questions. Courtney can work with you to make sure we get good answers to you on those questions. And also, as we run through the program today, the various breakout sessions, there will be more opportunities to dive deep into different topics. I think one key takeaway for me is now we have a very good sense of the Canadian market. We have a very good sense of Toronto, Montreal, and Vancouver, some of the key areas and industries. That creates opportunity for Utah companies. And so what we want to make sure we're doing, and the commitment we have from everybody we've heard from today, is they're looking at market expansions into Canada. Of course, companies aren't interested in growing their footprint in Canada unless they see significant opportunities to increase their sales. That's where we can come in. We can help facilitate that. David Smith at the Canadian Consulate, he's Consulate General in Denver, is very committed to leveraging all of their relationships to help Utah companies increase their sales into Canada. And that makes all of our friends that are focused on inbound investment into Canada happy, because then they have more companies that are growing their revenues, increasing their sales into Canada. And that's going to help both strengthen both the import and the export nature of this trade and investment relationship. So thank you to everybody. We look forward to reconvening for our life science breakout session here in about 20 minutes. And for those from other industries, please keep your eye on your calendar invites that you've received if you've registered for any of the breakouts. And we look forward to seeing you again here at some point today. So thank you again, everybody, and we'll keep this going here in 20 minutes or so.